Our country is winning again. In fact, we're winning so much that we really don't know what to do about it. People are asking me, please, 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 Mr. President, we're winning too much. We can't take it anymore. We're not used to winning in our country. Until you came along, we're just always losing, but now we're winning too much. And I say, no, 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 you're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever.
This week on Instant Experts, Trump becomes the first president in history to smoke a crack pipe during the State of the Union.
He was very animated, wasn't he?
Yeah, no wonder he spoke for an hour and a half.
Apparently the crack high only lasts 5 or 10 minutes, so he must have been hitting the pipe like the whole time.
I can believe it, Honk.
Thank God it wasn't Coke, otherwise he would have turned around to J.D. Vance and Mike Johnson and told them they should start a band.
All the latest on tariffs and the Epstein Files.
Yet again, you'll need a bucket.
Except the bucket now costs 15% more. And in sport, we wrap up Honk's new favourite event, the Winter Olympics.
Wait, it's not still going, is it?
Welcome back to Instant Experts, State of the Union of Crooks, Fuckwits and Morons edition. It's all the latest news explained by idiots, here to keep you sane in a crazy world. I'm Henry Lee, and as always, I'm here with my dear friend, the Honk. Honky, welcome.
Henry, my dear fellow, great to be here. A pleasure to see your handsome face. What a week.
Where are you this week, by the way? You look like you're in the Cotswolds or something.
I am in the Cotswolds. I'm in a beautiful, bucolic, classic Cotswold village. It's called Pedo on the Green.
I thought you might be in Prince Andrew's old digs.
Well, they actually were Prince Andrew's old digs. He's got a real estate agent, like I think the brother of his, Charles somebody, and I got it from him. It's like pennies on the pound. You wouldn't believe
it. Excellent.
But so wonderful to be here. What a week. As you said, as you adverted to in the title of our show, this is a show about crooks, fuckwits, and morons. The last couple of weeks on the show, many of these crook, fuckwits, and morons, as you know, have been kind enough to form an orderly queue for us in the Epstein Files. This week, they went one better. Virtually all of them gathered for us in one place.
The Straits of Hormuz / the Straits of Epstein, ready for the invasion of Iran early next week.
Better than that, Donald Trump's State of the Union.
Now, Honk, the State of the Union is basically the annual report, isn't it, that the US president delivers to Congress?
Yeah, in sort of corporate terms, it's like the CEO reporting to the board of directors, the Congress and the shareholders, the citizens at the AGM.
And like AGMs for public companies, the State of the Union's a requirement under the US Constitution.
Well, strictly speaking, Henry, AGMs for public companies in Australia are a requirement under Section 250N of the Corporations Act.
Or a little Australian company law there, Honk.
Hey, old habits die hard. I spent 2 or 3 good minutes practicing company law. But yes, under Article 2, Section 3, Clause 1 of the US Constitution, the President, quote, shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the State of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient, end quote.
Honky, did you know that for a long time the State of the Union address was only submitted in writing?
I did not know that. So what, there was no speech?
No speech until Woodrow Wilson in 1913. And Wilson was the 28th president of the US, so it took quite some time.
Why? He was a slow speaker. Oh, right, I see. But so why the change to speeches?
They invented radio and after that television, so it became a massive opportunity to explain and promote the president's agenda to the people.
Just spew propaganda.
Well, indeed. Now, which direction did Trump go? Let me guess.
Well, we gave a sense of it with our cold open, didn't we, when Trump rolled out his old lines about winning, so much winning.
Speaking of winning, is it too early to mention the Epstein Files, or was the word winning redacted 10,000 times?
We'll get there, Henry, young fella. But the point is, like all Trump speeches, it followed a clear classic structure. Let's go through it. First of all, make up a premise that isn't true, right? Like that America was a nation in crisis.
He said that, didn't he?
Specifically, he said, quote, we'd inherited a nation in crisis with a stagnant economy, inflation at record levels, a wide open border, rampant crime at home, and wars and chaos all over the world.
Okay, so that's step one. Assert there's a crisis, whether there is one or not.
Well, especially if there's not.
Yeah, in consulting, that's called by the way, the oh shit story.
Let me guess. Do you need the same consultants to fix it?
Why, yes, according to the consultants. Now, what's the second step?
Okay, so the first step we said was make up a premise that isn't true. Second, you need to assert a new reality that also isn't true. And then third, you need to claim credit for creating the change, that new reality, when that is not true either.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So the immigrants were eating the cats and eating the dogs.
I think
Now they're not.
were they eating the cats and the dogs? The dogs.
The dogs. Now they're not, and
Yeah.
Trump saved them.
That's
The
right.
cats and the dogs, that is, not the immigrants. He shot them.
Pretty much. Well, except for Christy Noam, who also shot the dogs.
Leaving only the cats. So you're saying, Honk, most of Trump's speech was untrue.
Well, a lot of it was. Being Trump, of course, you have to fact check everything he says, and luckily someone did that. I read, for example, in the Sydney Morning Herald this week that GDP growth was higher in President Biden's last year than in Trump's first year. So the previous economy was, in fact, far from stagnant.
What about incomes? Because Trump said that, quote, incomes are rising fast. The roaring economy is roaring like never before.
Well, again, no. Income growth is actually lower too, 0.9% in 2025 versus 2.2% in 2024.
Yeah, but what about jobs, Honk? Because Trump claimed that more Americans are working than ever. Sorry, actually, I've got to use Trump's overblown phraseology. More Americans are working today than at any time in the history of our country.
Well, that's true, at least in a literal sense, but you've got to remember that's because the population keeps increasing. The unemployment rate hit a record low during Biden's presidency, and that was 3.4%. Now it's 4.3%.
Trump's dyslexic, so he might have thought that 4.3 was 3.4. Who knows?
Who knows? But you get the idea. It was basically an hour and 45 minutes of Trump giving himself a monster blowjob.
Are you sure Pam Bondi wasn't under the lectern, like in Police Academy? Remember that? Or BJ Vance, vice prostate, possibly. Remember when Commandant Lazard is trying to give an inspirational speech to the Academy cadets, but a crazy guy Mahoney has other ideas?
Was it Sergeant Callahan under the lectern in that movie?
Honky, it was an 80s teen movie. It was a hooker.
Of
They all
course,
had
the-
hookers.
the
It's
sexual
risky business, you know.
The sexual politics of 80s movies.
Yeah, and by the way, Sergeant Callahan was a hard-bitten cop and feminist role model, Honky. She wouldn't do anything like that.
Henry, she's not going to sleep with you. Move on with your life. But that scene was such a thrill for me when I was 12 years old.
I had a very sheltered childhood, Honky. That scene was very confusing for me when I was 12.
Yeah,
But
but
anyway.
I went to public school, so
Anyway, the State of the Union was basically a complete waste of time.
yeah, as you said, an hour and 45 minutes of just too much winning. By the way, you mentioned the Crooks, Fuckwits and Morons Union.
I did, yeah.
Did you notice the initials for that are CFMU, which is dangerously close to that of another notorious Australian union?
They certainly are. You speak, of course, of the CFMEU, which is a whole episode in itself. And for the luckily uninitiated, that's the Construction, Forestry, Mining and Energy Union in Australia. It's kind of like our version of the Teamsters, except not in trucking, obviously. It's a giant racket that just bilks the taxpayer and developers all over Australia.
A $15 billion racket as of last week. That's how much in Victoria they were found to have taken on Victoria's so-called, quote, big build.
Also known as the Big Bill.
Fairly so. And they're just the rorts we know about, right?
Yes, and that, of course, was a huge story in Australia last week, particularly here in Victoria, where the Premier Jacinta Allen has been turning a blind eye, both as Infrastructure Minister and Premier, to massive rorts on taxpayer-funded construction projects like bridges and tunnels and railway lines.
Now, not just because I'm a Labor voter, but I will say you are always giving the Vic Labor government shit for being economic incompetence.
That's because they are. Jacinta Allen is, to paraphrase Isaac Newton, standing on the shoulders of midgets because she and her predecessor, a guy called Dan Andrews, took Victoria's state debt from $20 billion to $130 billion, and she's planning to take it to $200 billion. We're paying interest of $20 million a day down here in Melbourne. It's ridiculous.
Hey, I've got a mortgage too. Who isn't? Okay, but Jacinta Allen is actually, hater that you are, is actually, it turns out, hugely popular.
In your dreams, Honky, and even then that would be a very niche choice. And I don't mean to be unkind.
Possibly in my dreams, but also in real life. In a piece I read, Australians polled in the last week, get this, gave ex-Prince Andrew a net approval rating of minus 56. Donald Trump has a net approval rating among Australians of minus 41. Yes. Jacinta Allen is kicking their ass in the lovability approval stakes.
Right, what's she on?
Minus 36. So
look out. Taylor Swift. Anyway, Honk, back to the US, and the big win, the so much winning win for Trump during the week that I most enjoyed was the tariffs.
These are the illegal tariffs.
Exactly. As most listeners will know, tariffs have been a key part of Trump's policy platform, and indeed he has been personally fixated on them since the 1980s, well before he went into politics. And in his worldview, Americans' decision to buy goods from overseas producers that are either cheaper, better, or both, or simply not available in the USA, things like coffee and bananas, that's a case of Americans being ripped off.
You mean ripped off by their own decision to buy imported goods that they want to buy?
That's right, ripped off by their own efforts to chase a bargain, basically.
And not only that, being ripped off by dirty foreigners, right? That's Trump's other favorite bit. Dirty foreigners, the sort of people who make high quality goods at low prices in an effort to feed their families.
That's right. Yeah, the scourge of right-thinking Americans everywhere.
In fact, Americans so busy right-thinking they haven't themselves had time to build rival local US businesses or get their pricing models competitive.
Yeah, indeed. So anyway, when Trump got re-elected, he wasted no time levying tariffs on everyone he could think of.
Including, let us not forget, on the penguins.
That's right, including the penguins. They were the notorious tariffs on Heard Island, which we covered way back in episode 10 or 11 last year. Heard Island being a remote territory of Australia, somewhere in the Indian Ocean, inhabited only basically by the caste of Happy Feet.
Not even them. The Happy Feet penguins are, from memory, emperor penguins, which are native to Antarctica. Aren't the Heard Island penguins macaroni, king, southern rockhopper, and gentoo penguins? I would have thought you'd know that, Henry, with your expertise in penguins.
Well, excuse me, Your Majesty, or should I say your emperorness? Anyway, you're right. Trump did levy tariffs on Heard Island and literally every other country in the world except Belarus, Cuba, North Korea, and Russia, with whom US trade is forbidden.
Unless, of course, they're buying Trump coin, in which case, go for your fucking life.
Now, the only problem was, and we covered this in some detail last year, the president's powers to impose tariffs are actually quite limited because tariffs are a tax. They're a tax on American consumers, basically, a sales tax on imports. And the power to tax, just like the power to spend, generally sits with Congress, not the president.
Now, since I have my US Constitution out this episode, I carry it in my undies at all times, as you know. I can tell you that is Article 1.
Is it?
The Constitution, or what? Well, what colour was it, or what colour? Anyway, I can tell you that what you talked about is in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 of the US Constitution, commonly known as the Taxing and Spending Clause.
Article 1, of course, dealing with the powers of Congress. Article 2, which we mentioned earlier, deals with the power of the president and the executive.
And Article 3 is the judiciary, including the Supreme Court.
And they get a run here in a minute, Honk. But the point for now is that tariffs are basically a power for Congress. The president can only levy tariffs in certain circumstances, such as a national emergency.
So what did Trump do?
Well, he made one up. He made up an emergency.
Was that the fentanyl one, the fentanyl emergency?
That was one of them. He actually made up two. One was fentanyl. The other was the existence of trade imbalances with other countries, which are literally the opposite of an emergency. They are inherent to daily global trade.
Every country buys more from some countries than others, right?
And likewise sells more to others than some. So we sell iron ore to China and we buy, stuff from New Zealand and Indonesia, et cetera, et cetera. So it was all complete bullshit. And obviously so. And a federal court ruled as such in September. So Trump took it to the Supreme Court.
And they said it was complete and utter bullshit too.
And since that's the number one court, obviously, it's official.
And that is, don't forget, after Trump stacked the court. I mean, two of his three own picks that I think he appointed in his first term voted against him. So that's Justice Neil Gorsuch and Justice Amy Coney Barrett. She's the one that Trump stuck in right at the end of his first term to desperately get another Republican appointment, and it came back and bit him on the ass. So they voted with the majority along with the Republican-appointed Chief Justice Roberts and three other justices for a 6-3 vote against the tariffs. So basically you have black-letter justices enforcing the separation of powers that the Constitution makes absolutely clear.
Articles 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, someone said online, quote, imagine buying a Supreme Court and they still rule against you. What a loser. So what's the upshot of all this?
Well, most of the tariffs imposed since last year are unlawful. So the money was wrongly collected and has to be returned. And Honky, that is up to $175 billion US.
That could pay off the whole debt of Victoria. If that was a normal CEO, Henry, that was a normal CEO, they'd be fired immediately, right? So what did Trump do?
He imposed more tariffs. Because Trump has never been wrong in his life, at least according to him, he had a presidential hissy fit and imposed 15% tariffs on the world.
For fuck's sake. Did you see he basically threatened the judges who voted against him? Did you see this? He suggested the Republican-appointed justices who voted to invalidate the tariffs, again, Chief Justice Roberts, Gorsuch, Coney Barrett, were, among other things, he said, quote, cowards, disloyal to the United States, under the influence of foreign interests. He even said their votes were, I'm not making this up, he even said their votes were, quote, an embarrassment to their families. So he went their families, fucking hell. He did 45 minutes of it in an ad-lib press conference this past week. Then he had another go at those justices at the State of the Union while they were sitting in front of him live on national television. The level of cuntistry is just... what is the legal basis of the new tariffs, incidentally?
Well, under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974...
Yes, I know it well. Know it very well, yes.
The president is allowed to levy tariffs for up to 150 days before they have to go to Congress.
So, unless I'm missing something, why didn't you just do that in the first place?
Well, it's an excellent question. So, there's a writer called Stephen Bartholomew who's been a business columnist in The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald for years. He said it best, quoting Benjamin Franklin, "We're all born ignorant, but one must work hard to remain stupid."
Benjamin Franklin, always there when you need him.
Exactly. Okay, Honky, it's time for something I enjoy every week, our shout-outs to listeners.
And for the first time, shout-outs to our viewers as well.
Yes, and there's been a very encouraging response, Honk, to our pivot to video, although regrettably we don't have the same visibility of where you're watching from if you're watching on YouTube compared to the other podcast platforms like Spotify.
Unless, of course, that is you leave a comment like at Robo S Max did, who commented, quote, "You guys look exactly like what I imagined."
Which is what? Crooks, fuckwits and morons.
Well, Robo S Max did add, quote, "Thanks for keeping me sane." So thanks, Robbo.
And thanks also to our very first commenter on YouTube at Pinchflat8, who said, quote, "Die from Bondi, put us on to you. She was spot on about the show," unquote.
Well, we've chosen to assume that's meant as a compliment. It's pretty bad if it's not.
As to listeners, we do, as always, have loyal listeners all over Australia.
I won't ask, will I?
No, and listeners all around the non-Darwin world, Honky. Places like Arad in Arad County, Romania.
We were in Romania last week as well, weren't we?
We were, but in a different place. I looked it up. We're in Baia Mare, which is about 4.5 hours away from Arad.
It is Dead Set Mania in Romania.
Yes, our listenership has doubled in a week, Honky, to 2. We were heard in Itabashi in Tokyo, which is not too far, Honky, from the Tokyo Dome.
Where one of the greatest upsets ever, James Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson for the world heavyweight title in 1990.
Yes, and it wasn't even fixed. Oh, it was a great doco on it, actually.
Very good doco.
Watched it. It's fantastic.
ESPN 30 for 30, isn't it? Isn't that what it is?
It is, yeah, worth watching.
Now, even more importantly, Henry, the Tokyo Dome is also where New Japan Pro Wrestling, of course, always holds its huge, unmissable.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
You can't.
All right. We're also heard in Tijeras in New Mexico, which is not far from Albuquerque, Honky.
I hope you took the left turn.
Well, indeed. Very good. One for the Bugs Bunny fans there, of which I am one.
Now, I have a shout out myself. Show regular Jeds from Ouagadougou was listening to us. Ouagadougou was listening to us from the island of Grand Turk this week.
Wow, that's in the Turks and Caicos Islands, of course. We talked about Grand Turk last year, actually. Do you remember why, Honky?
I remember the capital of Turks and Caicos is called Cockburn.
Exactly. You're on the right track because Grand Turk and Cockburn are very close to Epstein Island.
Oh my God. So be careful out there, Jez from Ouagadougou. This is not some civilized African capital where you can just walk down the street without a care in the world. This is a part of the earth populated by savages.
And some guy called Jeff invites you over for a barbecue. Steer well clear.
Yeah, or some English guy called Andrew with a Pommy accent invites you back to his place. Sorry, palace.
Speaking of which, Honky, is it that time? Is it time for Epstein?
It is nearly that time, but just a tiny bit more feedback that is too good to ignore. First, okay. Ivan from Newcastle, who I always loved because it turns out he's also a huge wrestling fan, but who, when he saw our faces, described us as, quote, Timu, Kyle, and Jackie O. Have a look.
That is harsh, but fair.
I don't understand. You don't have a beard though, so I don't know what he's. and then another listener, regular listener and viewer, Nicholas from Centennial Park, wrote in to share a message he received during the week on a school WhatsApp group. You know, the ones with parents from a particular year.
I do. I know them well. I'm in several.
Well, this one says, quote, maths tutor available for all years, graduated with Band 6 in Maths Extension 1 and 2, which is very good. Currently studying actuarial studies. If interested, please contact Henry Lee.
Well, Honk, this podcast, let's be honest, is not paying the bills. And besides, to be fair to myself, I did pretty well in 4-year maths back in the day.
Yeah, but that was so long ago. Had they even invented algebra then? Of course, listeners, it wasn't really Henry because Lee was spelled L-I, not L-E-E.
Oh, no, that's definitely me, Honk. I just changed the spelling so I could charge more.
Oh, my God. Well, that's all the time we have today. Sorry. Anyway, it is time for an apology. And we haven't had one in for ages, dozens of episodes. And when we do apologies, usually these are, like the shout-outs to listeners are like your highlight. Usually our apologies are the highlight of the show for me because they're almost always Henry's fuck-ups, which this one also was.
Only you fed it to me, Honk.
That's actually true.
The
See,
bus
last week,
you've thrown me under.
I apologise. Not out of lack of love. Last week, I told you, and you repeated because you're such a lazy non-fact checker with no regard for history, that ex-Prince Andrew was the first English royal to face criminal sanctions since Charles II was beheaded. But in fact, I was one Charles off.
Right. Is King Charles III being beheaded?
King Charles III.
He's the one we got now.
King Charles only gets beheaded by Queen Camilla. And even then, only if he puts the old veggies in the green bin.
Is that a literal statement or a metaphor for old age?
What a beautiful metaphor. No, in fact, it was Charles I who was beheaded in 1649.
What happened? Did they find his name in the Epstein scrolls, Honk?
Actually, he refused to give up absolute rule and agree to a constitutional monarchy.
Now, I did know that actually, at least at one point. And as an Irishman, I support that message. I mean, the end of the royal family, how good.
I don't understand. What have the English ever done to your Irish lot? They gave you Northern Ireland, a land of centuries-old peace and harmony. They they finally gave your cities decent names like Londonderry. Stop fucking whining.
Yeah. Anyway, just be careful starting your car after this episode, Honky. I know people. But anyway, King Charles II, the one who wasn't beheaded, that I alleged was, he had a notable and unpleasant death as well, I've learned. He died of, quote, an apoplectic fit. Plenty of theories about why, but one of them is that it was because he had a private science lab where he liked playing with mercury. It was early days in chemistry. Yeah. And England's best doctors tried the latest cutting-edge medical techniques to save him.
You mean like leeching his eyes, sticking a whole dead eel up his butt?
They tried blistering as well, punched him in the balls for a month, for all I know. But basically nothing worked, and he died in agony. He had pretty poor aim as well, Honky, possibly the worst in English royal history.
You mean a bad sportsman, like bad at archery?
No, he died without a legal heir, so that's a big fail as a king. But he managed to father at least 12 illegitimate children.
Oh, well, I'm no doctor, but that's what killed him. Exhaustion, dehydration. Doctors should have just poured water down the dead eel that was in.
He actually converted to Catholicism on his deathbed and begged forgiveness for how badly he treated his wife.
Why? He saved a minutes of effort, at least 12 of them.
Anyway, our apologies for that mistake last week.
Yeah, for fuck's sake, do better, would you, Henry? Okay.
Now, Honky, you're not Trump. You can't put it off forever. It's time for what we call American carnage.
American carnage, that was Trump's nappy at the end of his 105-minute State of the Union, right?
That was verbal diarrhea. Could have been literal too, given his issues in that department.
The state of the urine.
Well, indeed. But I was referring, of course, Honk, to the ongoing odyssey, a stain on America of the Epstein Files. And there's a lot happening there. Hillary and Bill Clinton have begun testifying to Congress.
Yes, Hillary opening with some amateur proctology on the Republicans.
Yeah, she certainly did. And we'll pick that up next week. But meantime, you're the one of us who lost the toss on this topic, and you have to look at this horrendous material. And I believe there's yet more horror, although maybe we don't have to talk about it because is the Dow over 50,000?
Well, that's the rub. The Dow was over 50,000, but now the Dow's dropped back below 50,000. So sadly for friend of the show, Attorney General Pam Bondi, the sex abuse of children by a cabal of rich and powerful pedophiles is once again a concern.
Poor old Pam. Otherwise, these victims could just shut up and put their money in the stock market. They're grateful to Pam and Trumpy.
Exactly. But let's start with the victims. It's important to focus on who's really suffered in all of this.
so many abused and trafficked girls.
No, I was talking about Lord Peter Mandelson.
Him again. He's rapidly becoming a friend of the show. He's been on 3 weeks in a row. He was, of course, UK PM Keir Starmer's former US ambassador, who's been sacked from that role and the House of Lords because he leaked confidential UK government information to Jeffrey Epstein in return for bribes. And you're saying he's a victim. Why didn't he do it?
No, he 100% did it. It's just not fair that he got arrested for it because he says he told police that he'd come in voluntarily. Only the police just decided to arrest him instead.
It was robbed, Honk. The injustice of being arrested for something that you did.
That's nothing.
Instead of being interviewed.
That's nothing. What about the other real victim of the Epstein Files?
Are we at the girls yet?
President Trump, I'm talking about, obviously, if you're paying attention. Now, there is good news there for Trumpy. He has been exonerated.
Let me guess. He said so at the State of the Union.
He did, so it must be true. The bad news is it's not hard to be exonerated, Henry, when you've gone into the Epstein Files yourself and buried all the ones that call you a pedophile, which it turns out is, in fact, what Trump's done, we learned this week. It's pretty outrageous. The Epstein Files list 4 interviews that a woman did with the FBI in 2019 in which she says that she was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein as a minor, and in which she also says she was sexually abused and beaten by Trump in 1984 when she was 13 years old.
It's disgusting. Presumably those interviews have been unredacted along with the other files that have been released.
Well, one has, and that is the one that talks about Jeffrey Epstein. The ones that presumably include the allegations against Trump, which we know are in those documents, have magically gone missing.
They've gone missing. That was unlucky, as well as shameful. Has the White House offered any explanation?
The White House are staying out of it. They're relying on a Department of Justice statement from late January, which Trump clearly got the Department of Justice to write, which says lots of what's in the Epstein files is fake or false.
Right. So Trump has stopped unredacted files about him being released to Congress because he personally doesn't like them. And that surely can't be legal, Honky.
Not only is it not legal, it's specifically illegal. The law that your hero Congressman Thomas Massie, the Republican, and Ro Khanna, legend, and Ro Khanna, the Democrat, passed, which mandates the release of unredacted Epstein files to Congress, specifically says documents cannot be withheld, quote, on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, including to any government official or public figure.
Otherwise, the whole files would be redacted.
Indeed. Yeah, by the way,
it's still unbelievable that they don't release them.
Do you know who used to think these allegations were not fake? The Department of Justice that now says they are fake. They thought those interviews with that woman were credible enough that they were part of the evidence catalogue the Department of Justice released in the Epstein files of what the Department of Justice used to prosecute Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, who got convicted and got 20 years in jail.
Wait a second. The DOJ used it in evidence 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And now thinks they're not credible.
That's right. And they've now disappeared from the Epstein files. But that's not the worst of it. You know who else used to think these allegations against Trump were credible? Can you guess?
Who?
The actual Trump White House.
Come on.
Because I'm not making it up. In Trump's first term, 2018, when Trump's Epstein buddy, the right-wing nutjob Steve Bannon, was fired from the White House the first time, he gave an interview to
Satan.
Friend of Satan. He gave an interview to Vanity Fair, Bannon, in which he talked about a fight he had in the White House with Trump's daughter Ivanka. Now, here's the story. She was criticizing Bannon for his continued support of the then Republican Senate candidate for the state of Alabama, who was the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Alabama, a guy called Roy Moore, because Roy Moore had been accused of sexually abusing a number of women when they were underage.
So Ivanka's saying basically you shouldn't put the guy who abuses underage girls in the Senate. It seems like a reasonable position to hold.
Well, you should withdraw your support from him. And in fact, he lost that Senate race. So Ivanka's criticizing Bannon, and Bannon says to Vanity Fair that he said to Ivanka, "Where do you get off criticizing me about Roy Moore? What about your dad and the 13-year-old girl?"
What?
It's in Vanity Fair. And it's clear when you put it all together that Bannon was talking about the same girl who's the one who turns up in the Epstein files, whose allegations about Trump in the Epstein files have now gone missing.
Jesus Christ. I mean, it's disgraceful. Its cover-up is unbelievable. And with great regret, we're going to stay on the story. It's so horrible, but it needs to be covered. But for now, Honky, we've got to move on to quick shots. Otherwise, I'm going to redact my brain with a revolver.
Happy to move to quick shots, just as long as it's got nothing to do with Trump.
Well, unfortunately, Honky, my quick shot is that it was announced this week that there'll be a Trump Tower in Australia on the Gold Coast.
Jesus Christ, get away from this fucking guy. Doesn't the Gold Coast suck enough already?
Well, apparently not. Actually, to be fair, we enjoyed it the last couple of times we went up there. So hello, Queensland listeners.
You and Mrs. Lee, you mean?
Indeed. But anyway, Eric Trump, the idiot child, which child is he? Which wife, which child? Anyways, one of the idiots, has announced a deal to put Australia's tallest building on the Gold Coast, a 91-story mix of apartment and hotel rooms.
I mean, we all know that's not going to happen, right? Surely the only question is whether Eric Trump goes broke during or after construction.
It's funny you should say that because the developer who did the deal to use the Trump name has already gone bankrupt twice.
Well, they should get along well then. It'll be like the casino in Casablanca. Remember, the developer will pretend to build it and the Trumps will pretend to pay.
Now, Hulk, time for entertainment news, and you're our entertainment correspondent. What have you got?
Well, this is a fun one this week, Henry. At the BAFTAs, which are the UK equivalent of the Oscars.
Yeah, they're like the Oscars with bad teeth.
Do not resort to cliches, please, Henry. We're above that. We have a lot of listeners all over Britain, and if they choose to watch or listen to our show without ever washing, that is a matter for them.
This show, of course, brought to you by convicts. So,
Yes. G'day, Cobber. G'day. Hey, how's it going? Anyway, this week at the BAFTAs, a number of films being celebrated, as they usually are, including a film called Sinners and a film called I Swear. Now, Sinners came out last year, superb movie. It's a black period drama set in 1932 in Mississippi, and it's kind of blended with a vampire movie. Stars Michael B. Jordan playing identical twin brothers.
That's Michael B. Jordan from The Wire, who's a great actor.
Yeah, and also, the Creed films, Black Panther, a million things. And it's been a huge stonking hit. Won Best Original Screenplay at the BAFTAs, been nominated for 16 Oscars, which that is one in every available category it could have been nominated for.
Well,
and it's grossed and counting at least 370 million at the box office worldwide.
what was the other movie, I Swear?
I know what you're going to say, Henry, but I Swear is about a guy with Tourette's syndrome.
Right, well, I'm a mature, socially progressive man, Honk. I'm not going to resort to cliches.
Thank you. Anyway, the movie's about a real guy called John Davidson who struggles with Tourette's and ends up becoming a leading advocate for Tourette's sufferers and, in particular, greater understanding of the condition.
Well, that's a good story. So what happened at the BAFTAs?
So Michael B. Jordan is up on stage along with his castmate Delroy Lindo, both well-known black actors, and John Davidson, the real Tourette's guy, is in the audience, and he calls out the N-word very loudly.
Oh, dear.
And then the BBC, in its wisdom, and then the BBC puts the whole thing to air 2 hours later. So they could have cut it out. They put it to air, right? They put the N-word to air. Chaos ensues. John Davidson, the Tourette's guy, leaves the awards ceremony. It becomes a huge controversy.
That's a corker. Now, what do you make of that, Honk? I mean, in a sane world, it's pretty straightforward, I should say. It's one bloke calling another bloke, or blokes in this case, an entirely unacceptable name.
Well, I'm with you. That's how I read it.
Yeah, but sort of in a crazy world, it's a heavyweight clash of wokeness and identity politics, isn't it? Because who deserves more sympathy? The black guys who presumably have had to deal with this crap on and off their whole lives, or the guy with a disability that seemingly can't help it?
Well, look, I know it's not fashionable to say, but I've got to say that I'm a bit doubtful on the can't help it bit. I suspect that sentiment's laying there. I mean, otherwise, not everyone with Tourette's is a racist, right? So I say the black actors deserve the sympathy here pretty clearly. To me, you can't get a free pass for everything. There's a line there, even if you can't help it, which again, I'm possibly a little unfashionably leaning to calling bullshit on.
I tend to agree. But okay, where do you think Inner West Karen would stand on this issue? We haven't heard from her for a while. Can we ask her?
Oh, Henry, I think you'll find that people with a different ability.
You mean a disability?
Oh, no. We don't use that word. A different ability, Henry, not a disability.
Well, if it's a different ability, not a disability, Karen, could they go easy on the N-word?
Well, the people who use the N-word deserve sympathy and empathy too, Henry.
Could they have the different ability to use a different word?
Henry, a little grace, please. I mean, quite frankly, Henry, in all of this, let's not forget who's to blame. I blame the patriarchy. I mean, I will note it was all men. They didn't invite a woman to use the N-word, did they?
Oh, you're right, Karen. It's my fault. It's the patriarchy.
Basically, where'd she go? Basically, that's how it all ended. All the blame went to the BBC and BAFTA, the British Academy of Film and Television Arts.
Right, because it's always important to shoot the messenger.
Yeah.
Anyway, Honk, I found it a very strange one.
Yeah, at least they got some publicity for the film.
What's it called again? The Tourette's one.
It's called I Swear. I shit fucking can't fucking swear.
You couldn't resist, could you?
Hey, I just swear a lot. That's all.
Okay, Honk. Time for sport. And the focus for this week was still your favourite event, the Winter Olympics.
Actually, Henry, I was about to do it as Inner West Karen. Actually, Henry, I've actually turned my attention. I've actually turned my attention to WWE Elimination Chamber, which, as you will know, is on Sunday Australian time.
I thought you converted to snow sports last week with Mrs. Honk on the couch with the oysters.
Heavens no, there is no, listen, grow up, would you? There's no hanky-panky before WWE Elimination Chamber. It is the last major event before WrestleMania. I need to be at full strength. It determines the title shots, the momentum, everything.
I reckon if Charles II had prepared properly, he could have won it. Anyway, look, enough about the wrestling. I want to talk about the Winter Olympics, and in particular, Honk, I want to talk about somebody I learned about this week called Eileen Gu.
Who is Eileen Gu?
Well, Eileen Gu is many things, Honky. Get this, a ridiculous number of things, in fact. So in no particular order, she's the highest paid athlete at the Winter Olympics. She made $23 million last year, US. She's modelled for Victoria's Secret and the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. She's been on the cover of Vogue and GQ. She's gorgeous. She's super smart. She got 1580 out of 1600 in the SAT, probably tutored by Henry Lee. She's fluent in English and Chinese. She studies international relations at Stanford. And despite being born in the US and San Francisco, she's very controversially elected to compete for China, not the USA, which of course has the MAGA people's knickers in a knot. So she's been a huge story. But to complete the picture, Honky, she's the most decorated free skier in Olympic history. And I know you're a ski man, with 3 gold and 3 silver medals, including a gold in the halfpipe last Saturday after we recorded. Plus, she won silver in the big air without having competed in a big air event since she won gold in the big air in the last Olympics. She's an absolute freak.
But apart from that, she hasn't really done.
Yeah.
So let's talk about her.
Well, we also need to talk about ice hockey, Honk.
So after all that, we're not going to talk about her, but that's okay. That's okay because I love ice hockey. To me, it's like wrestling except on ice.
Indeed, but there were 3 big stories this week that had almost nothing to do with the actual sport. The first was that the US won both gold medals. Men's and women's teams beat Canada 2-1 in overtime, which is gutting for Canada. It's essentially their national sport. And it was the first men's gold for the US since the 1980 very famous match, the Miracle on Ice, which is when a bunch of college students, amateurs, beat the dirty Russians, the dirty commies, who are all professionals. And it was the 3rd gold medal for the US women's side. Now, the only problem was, Honky, that Trump called the men's team in the dressing room to congratulate them, but not the women's. And they'd won a few days earlier, so he had plenty of opportunity.
I heard him in the dressing room in the call. He invites the guys to the State of the Union, and in the call he said he'd, quote, have to invite the women's team, otherwise he'd been impeached. The guys all laughed like morons at the women's team's expense to suck up to the president, and they accepted the invite.
In fact, the audio at the top of the show where Trump craps on like a 6-year-old about winning leads straight into Trump inviting the men's hockey team as the quote-unquote biggest winners to come on down, Price is Right style, into the House chamber. And the women's hockey team, of course, didn't accept Trump's invite after hearing the insults. They started by saying scheduling issues, the old favourite, before point blank admitting that they thought the guys were assholes and Trump's a cunt.
I should say, I was bummed. I got very excited. As a Jewish guy, we get very excited in a particular situation. I got very excited when the men's team won because 2 brothers in the team who both scored goals, I think one was the winning overtime goal, 2 brothers, Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes, turned out to be Jewish. And not since Julian Levine, the great Jewish Aussie cricketer, played a whole 1 test for Australia, had I been that fired up.
I think you might be thinking of Julian Weiner, Honky, the former Victorian opener, but go on.
Oh, yeah, Menachem, I know him well. A good mate of mine. But I also learned a new expression, cashew, this week. Cashew is a half Catholic, half Jew.
Well, you and Mrs. Honk have several cashews, my godchildren, in fact. And it also explains 2 Jewish guys being called Jack and Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, indeed. But as dumb and
Sound
sexist...
like they're from the inner part of Dublin.
But as dumb and sexist as the US men's hockey team was, the Jewish brothers, if I may say, may be the worst, because get this, not only were the whole team laughing at the women's expense, but the brother's own mother is on the coaching staff of the US women's team.
No way.
Yeah.
No soup for them, Honky. No soup for them.
The second story here was the FBI Director Kash Patel, right, crashing the US men's hockey team celebrations. Let's have a little look at this. There he is.
What a donkey.
What a donkey. To which he travelled in northern Italy in a US government taxpayer-funded jet for personal purposes, which he denied he did, as he was doing it. And this is after he previously trashed the Biden administration's FBI director, Christopher Wray, remember, for using the US government taxpayer-funded FBI jet for personal purposes, which in fact Christopher Wray did not do.
And Honk, speaking of scheduling constraints, which the women's hockey team cited, Cash's defence was the reverse. He cited important meetings with the Italian security officials that happened to be right around the time and place of the Winter Olympics.
Amazing.
But thank God there was nothing urgent going on back in the US, like some lunatic bursting into Trump's Florida club Mar-a-Lago with a rifle this week looking to find and kill Trump. Instead, he got shot by the US Secret Service, shot dead.
Yeah, there's your cunt of the week, by the way, listeners, in case you were wondering. Cash Patel, that is, not the would-be gunman. But Henry, you said there were 3 stories here.
There were. The third big ice hockey story was the worst, in my opinion, even worse than dissing the women's team, which was Trump posting a video of himself in the US men's ice hockey team in the gold medal match.
What? A real video or an AI one?
An AI video of him in the team. Take a look at this. So he basically starts by punching a Canadian, and then he ends up skating down the ice and scoring the winning goal. I mean, it's the most presumptuous thing you've ever seen, and I think totally disrespectful to everybody who's competed in sport at a high level.
I'm not an expert. I mean, I knew there were guys in ice hockey whose only job is to fight. I did not know there were guys in ice hockey whose only job was to shit their pants and fall asleep on the bench.
Well, folks, on that happy note, that's all we have time for. Thanks for being with us and sticking with us in our move to video. Our first video episode has been one of our biggest. And again, we're really, really grateful for the support. You can find us on video on YouTube, in video or audio on Spotify, and in audio everywhere else you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on socials, especially TikTok and Instagram. And please share us, as always, with your friends. Like and comment on YouTube and rate us in Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It really helps us grow the show.
It really does. Also, as we always say, please check out our show notes, which are a rundown of what's in each episode of the show, like this one, wherever you get the show, video or audio. You can send us a text from those show notes. We'll read it on the show. You can send us a voicemail direct from those show notes. We'll play it on the show and read our show notes for even dumber jokes that Henry always insists on writing to bring down the very classy tone that I myself try to set with my commitment to clean language in segments like Cunt of the Week.
Well, indeed. And we'll be back again next week at the usual time of Saturday Australian time, hopefully the morning, maybe a little later, depending on how we go, wrangling our videos, which we're still learning how to do.
Now, we usually like to finish with some audio video of particular crookery, fuckwitticism, or moronificationosityness.
Well, not always hockey. Sometimes we go a bit soft, don't we, and do a tribute.
Hey, that's not soft. That's respectful.
Let me guess, you're doing a tribute.
Maybe I am and maybe I'm not. Yes, I am. And I think, Henry, sensitive new age man that you are, but in all sincerity and with all love and respect, as a true appreciator of music, I think you'll enjoy this one.
Right. Who is it?
It's Roberta Flack, who I discovered died this week. Legendary soul singer, keyboardist extraordinaire, gone at actually the pretty advanced age of 88. She didn't crack it as a pop star. She was in her 30s.
I didn't know she died. I love Roberta Flack.
Everybody loves Roberta Flack. Come on.
I reckon half of us who were born in the 1970s were conceived to Roberta Flack. She would have to be in the top 5 artists people have gotten laid to, wouldn't she? Be like her, Marvin Gaye, Barry White. Who else?
Johnny Mathis, Tom Jones.
Tom Jones?
Oh, sorry.
On that list, Woody.
Oh, sorry, you said artists people have gotten laid to, not laid by. Sorry, which I think may also be half of us born in the 1970s. but Roberta Flack also brought a few more kids into the world in the 90s via her "Killing Me Softly," the Fugees version.
Yes, and those kids are turning 30 now, Honk.
Oh, what?
Yeah, that was released in 1996, the Fugees version. I couldn't believe it. It's 30 years old this year.
Roberta Flack had so much great stuff. "Killing Me Softly," as you said, first time ever I saw your face. I'm personally a huge fan of her duet stuff with the also late great soul singer Donny Hathaway. Songs like "Where Is the Love." But there is another one Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway did, actually written for them by Stevie Wonder, no less. So pretty talented bunch. It's called "Back Together Again." This is a snippet of a live version from 1980, and this is Roberta Flack with another soul great, Peebo Bryson. Their voices are pretty staggering. So valet Roberta Flack.
Oh, well, valet indeed. And Honky, I have a little video and audio too. It's my new best friend, Eileen Gu.
The Winter Olympics superstar, your new girlfriend.
She is not.
He is too.
It's Eileen Gu. Honky.
You're
Listen to a video.
You're cheating on AOC, and I'm going to tell her too.
It's Eileen Gu, Honky, answering a question from a New York Times journalist who memorably asked, "Do you think before you speak?" And Eileen Gu's answer blew me and many others away.
Well, does she? And more particularly, can she possibly keep up with the genii of the US men's hockey team?
I'd say so. Have a listen for yourself. It's amazing a level of self-awareness and self-direction, frankly. And to quote the Australian musicians, the Masters Apprentices, do what you want to do, be what you want to be. Yeah, and that's kind of her vibe. It's very cool.
Well, I will listen with interest, and she is amazing. So please enjoy two greats of their fields, Roberta Flack and Eileen Gu, and we'll be back next week because, as the great Henry Lee always says,
Eileen, call me. I was never serious about AOC.
it
was just a fling.
You were just boating her to get to Eileen. And also, as Henry Lee always says,
stupid never sleeps.
Someone to show me that I do not love you, and a man must be out of their mind. No one can ever change my mind, no more, 'cause I got you here, right by my side. You are my love, you are my love, you are my heaven, you are my love, you are my love. Make me sing. Lord God, you are my love, you are my heaven, darling. I won't let them take you away.
Come on. Do I think? I think overall, I'm just a pensive person. Like, I'm an introspective young woman. Like, I spend a lot of time in my head, and it's not a bad place to be. I journal a lot. I break down all of my thought processes. I think I apply a very analytical lens to my own thinking, and I kind of modify it because it's so interesting. You can control what you think. Like, you can control how you think, and therefore you can control who you are. And especially as a young person, like I'm 22, so with neuroplasticity on my side, I can literally become exactly who I want to be. How cool is that? Like, how empowering is that, right? And so the fact is, I get to become every day the kind of person that me at age 8 would revere. And I think that's the biggest flex of all time, that you can have like little younger you be proud of you today. And so I guess for me, it's like, yes, I spend a lot of time in my own head. Yes, I think a lot, but it's not really like in an egotistical kind of way. It's in like a tinkering, like a scientist kind of way. I'm always like trying to modify. I'm trying to think, how can I be better? How can I approach my own brain the way that I approach my craft of free skiing, so that I can be better tomorrow than I was today?
So